We all know it. In a time of crisis, cash is king. Well, for a manufacturing company, there is a direct link between how resource efficient and how effective your use of resources is and money in the bank. So let me be more specific. Resource efficiency is king. If you don't have a resource efficient business, you don't have a competitive business. That's it. So the question is, have you been working strategically and focused on optimizing the flow and use of resources in your company? Well, if not, that should be a top priority as of today. I recommend using the circular economy toolbox when you want to make sure you're not wasting money on resources. It's a discipline that's rooted in business thinking, and that's all about optimizing the flow and use of resources, keeping them alive for as long as possible at the highest value possible. But let me just take one step back, because circularity is the guiding principle of nature. And until just a few generations ago, it was also the guiding principle for societies. Resources were used again and again, and everything we had basically came from nature, and after we used it over a couple of cycles, it all went back to nature. Nothing is waste. And just as in an ecosystem, in the bigger picture, nothing was wasted. But industrialization changed that. And over the last 70-ish years or so, we more or less abandoned this approach and this principle of circularity. And instead, we have taken in this linear approach where we take stuff from the ground, make a product out of it, use it once, perhaps twice, but most of the times just once, and throw it out. Consequently, we now live in an incredibly resource inefficient world where billions of euros of materials is wasted every year. And yes, you heard right, I said billions of euros. And if you just stop and reflect on that for a second, it does seem kind of stupid, doesn't it? It's time to unlearn some of those things that they were taught in school and that you have had as part of your upbringing in the business community. My guess is that resources, raw material, energy, water, so on, is all part of what could be labeled as cost of operation. And that's how we've been thinking about it, or that's how most people have been thinking about it for so long. But now it's time to unlearn some of those things and replace them with an upgraded version of that success formula mankind have been living for most of the time on this planet. And that is the circular economy. I know that you probably don't feel ready to lead a transition and integrate circular economy as a way of doing business. And I perfectly understand that, because not having the skills and the knowledge, not knowing how to do it, not being able to see a clear path ahead, well, why would you want to take such an approach into the core of your business? In many ways, it's a similar situation to what we were in around a decade ago or so, when digitalization was what swept through the business community. Back then, most business leaders did not understand that either. It became quite popular to hire a chief technology officer or something like that and park the responsibility there. But over time, it became obvious that that was not sufficient. So management groups started to engage, started to build capacity, started to integrate it into the core of the business. And for the companies that were not that far, when the COVID pandemic hit or the world shut down, well, they were in for a rough ride. And it's the same situation if you have not spent time on familiarizing and working and building up competences on circular economy. Now that you're facing 4 or 5 times increases in material prices, energy prices, now it's really the time. You have to embrace the circular economy. But the good news is that it's easier than you think to upgrade yourself. In my experience, most business leaders are fairly fast to grasp the basic ideas. And again, perhaps because it really aligns well with what mankind has been doing generations and generations and generations. Of course, it's a little bit harder to master it, but to just get started, that will give you results quite fast. And if you want to know how to do it in a structured way, through a method that will take you from where you are today, where you want to get to, a place where you have a more resource efficient, more profitable business that also leaves the world a better place, well then jump on to one of my free introduction seminars. You can go in and book it at my website at bwimpact.com/introduction. Look forward to see you there.